Now, Edgbaston has always been one of the most impressive grounds in England, and it's going to be even more impressive next season. There'll be room for 20,000 supporters here at Edgbaston. An extra 1,000 seats will be put in at the new stand at the City End. It's called the Bob Wyatt stand. There's going to be room for private boxes, dining rooms, suites. So an extra 1,000 seats there in the stand named after R.E.S. Wyatt, the famous former England and Warwickshire all-rounder, still a part of the Warwickshire scene on special occasions. So Warwickshire moving ahead with purpose, off the field as well as on. And what a remarkable summer it was for them, 1994. They won 3 trophies out of the available 4. It was pretty good in 1993, wasn't it, when they won the NatWest Trophy? But they really built on that the following year. I wonder if at the start of the 94 season, did the Warwickshire players think it was going to be so remarkable?
I came here not for the money. I like playing cricket. I like being on a winning team, and I think that it would have been really tough playing 5 months of cricket and being bottom of the table or something like that. And the guys have really played well and played as a team. It wasn't a one-man show or anything like that. It was a whole total team effort.
People keep coming up to me and saying, "Oh, you've had a good season," and I stop and wait for another adjective because it's just been an amazing year, absolutely phenomenal. But the NatWest win in '93 was brilliant, and I think that proved to the boys that even without an overseas player in that match, we can win against anybody. So we were very optimistic for the '94 season, and winning 3 trophies out of 4 is absolutely amazing.
Well, quite obviously this is the greatest performance by any Warwickshire side in the history of the club. Straightforward.
And the performance has really been about team spirit rather than individual brilliance, apart from Brian Lara.
Yes, I don't agree with that, Pat. I mean, finally, you just can't have a few good days and do what this side has done, and the bottom line is ability. Agreed, they've all got together, obviously, and captains have done well, and I include Tim in there, the same as...
Tim Munton.
Tim Munton, the same as Dermot. Yes, they've got together, and the drive and the desire to win, but at the end of the day, it's the ability.
It's unprecedented, isn't it, with the success the team's had this year, and it's been down to a team performance. Obviously, we all say that Brian has inspired it, which he has. He scored his runs quickly, which has enabled the blokes to have lots of time to bowl the opposition out. But what it has done, he's raised the standard and the play of all the rest of the players. And it's been whenever we wanted them to bowl people out on a turning wicket, they've done it. And get people out on a seaming wicket, the chaps have come in. Tim Munton, Roger Toos, Neil Smith, Dickie Davis at the end, Trevor Penny, Dominic Ross, they've all had a marvellous season.
That's the whole team, more or less, Dennis.
Missed out Gladstone Small. I'm sure I've missed out somebody else, but if I have, I don't mean to.
I think the win in '93 gave us a real belief that for whatever state of game's at, you don't give it up and you keep going and you can win from anywhere. But to actually believe you win 3 trophies is ridiculous to sort of think at the start of a year. We generally felt we got a strong squad that was capable of winning something, and we weren't sure what we could win. But just to sort of come through with it with 3 trophies and losing out in the 4th and the final.
Signing Brian Lara, though, world's best player, then he gets that 375 against England. All conspired, didn't it? Everything was going right.
You couldn't have hoped for a better signing. Manoj Pavakar injured his ankle and was unavailable. And we signed Brian. The year before when we discussed Brian, we didn't actually know how good he was. I don't know if anybody knew. But, we got him in prime form, and we couldn't have hoped for a better signing.
And all of a sudden, there was this terrific buzz about the club in April once you signed Lara.
Absolutely ideal. Like you say, we signed him the week before he broke the world record in Antigua. He comes here on the back of sort of a real sort of media hype. And I actually believe that was as important as what he did on the cricket field to what we achieved last year. The interest in the club and what people that came to watch it, the media that came down. It's a lot better performing in front of people than it is in empty grounds, and the ground was full from the start.
As a captain, and with Tim as vice captain and Bob Wilmer as the manager, the cricket management, it was our philosophy that cricketers play their best cricket when they're relaxed, when they enjoy it, and when they're confident. They're good players. Every cricketer playing first-class cricket is a good player, and you've got to try and get the best out of them. And we felt we would do that in a relaxed, happy environment, and that's what we created, a team playing for each other, and being encouraged all the time. And we just, as Tim said, we got on a roll. We started well, which is always important, nobody went out there playing for themselves. Everyone played for the team to win matches, and we proved that we're a good side, very good side.
Warwickshire started well, of course, against Glamorgan in that first championship match, but so did Brian Lara. If a scriptwriter said the guy's going to arrive 2 days before the first championship match, and then he goes out and scores a brilliant 147, you'd have said, put that in the bin, that's not true.
It was just amazing. I honestly, in that first day that I saw him bat, the first few games, you know, you felt absolutely privileged. You actually at times forgot you were playing in the match. You sat there like a spectator in awe. You know, you felt privileged to actually see someone play like that. He's the best batsman, the best four-day batsman, championship batsman, test match batsman that I've ever seen. And I just sat there thinking, crumbs, I've got to go in after this bloke. And what are the crowd going to think then?
I mean, Brian's achievements in those early weeks of the season were awesome. I mean, I think Gladstone summed it up to the best. I mean, Glad's a great sleeper in the dressing room. And when Glad comes up and he misses 2 days of sleep to watch a guy bat, he has to be playing well.
But that first innings of Lara's was a big crowd here, I well remember it. Anti-climax, because he didn't bat the first day. So many people turned up and Glamorgan batted. But he came out and he played like a god. And he must have known the pressure that was on him.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. I mean, he's come over, and I don't think anybody could actually sort of prepare somebody for that sort of attention and that sort of media pressure. And to be honest, the guy was in such great nick and great form when he went out there. I think it was like a release for him to get out into the middle and be batting. This is where he got the most quiet and the most peace in his life at that time of his life. And I think he went out there and he just generally was in such great nick, he was enjoying it, and you know, you could see that.
And another left-hander did very well for you in that game, Roger Toos. He'd started the joke about Brian Lara being the second best left-hander at the club.
Yeah, well, Roger did, that was true. He actually pinned a note on Brian's locker saying, "Welcome to the second best left-hander in the world." And after Roger's season in '93, that was a very noble statement. But actually, we had a big selection meeting at the start of the year, and you know, we went with Roger on the strength of his '92 season and the fact he can bowl a bit and is a good fielder. And you know, he scored a fabulous double hundred, you know, that day, and he never looked back for the rest of the season either.
Yeah, 1993. Yeah, 1993. He scored a total of 262 runs in the whole season. First game for 1994, he passed the whole lot. So it was quite an achievement for the man.
One of the key games was against Leicester, as it turned out, where Brian Lara batted so magnificently. Obviously, a key performance because Surrey were at top at the time when we were at Guildford, and Dougie Brown and Graham Welch batted superbly. Then Roger Toos got 6 wickets, and you probably wouldn't have expected that, would you? I don't think any of us expected that, but it happened, which showed the spirit and the commitment of all the players on the staff, and that was wonderful. Yeah.
In the second innings, everybody else really struggled on the wicket, and Brian got an undefeated 100, and he actually was on 99, and he swept the ball out. I'll never forget it. He swept the ball out to deep backward, and didn't run to keep the strike. He faced three or four balls in the over before he decided to bring up his 100. I mean, it was a very unselfish, totally unselfish act, and you know, that did enormous for the team morale. But the reason we didn't lose to Leicestershire was down to Brian Lara. And
that kind of action, Tim, is the kind of thing that you professionals respect. Obviously, he was a great player, you knew that, but to get yourself involved in a dressing room early on, be part of the whole atmosphere, you've got to be more than a great player.
I mean, that, like Dermot said, him turning down singles on 99, you know, in his second game for the club, was, you know, it's brilliant. I mean, it actually sort of set the guys in the dressing room to realise this guy was here to play for the team. He was obviously a fantastic player in his own right. He was actually here to do well for Warwickshire County Cricket Club as well for Brian Lara, and that's what set it up for the year.
And the team were doing well too. In the next game, a very important Benson Hedges win against Middlesex. Dangerous side, Middlesex, in all competitions, particularly in the one-dayers. You won a narrow game by 3 wickets. Lara failed, comparatively, so that was a satisfying thing for you as captain, surely, because the team got in there, dug in, won a hard game.
Yeah, we actually played really well. We bowled and fielded that day superbly, and we restricted Middlesex to, I'm not quite sure, a very low score. I haven't got the statistics with me. And we were cruising in. We had plenty of overs, plenty of time. We just had a slight hiccup at the end where we lost 2 quick wickets. But it was actually quite an easy, comfortable win.
So we're into the middle of May now. Warwickshire on the roll, Tim, and you're captain in the next game against Somerset in the county championship. Dermot, for some reason, attracted the attention of the England selectors, who's on international duty, conning them again. So, Tim, you start off as captain. We'll come later to your various successes as captain. Small ground, though, Tim, Taunton. On the face of it, it's going to be a batsman's game. Rain about. Significantly, though, Lara played a great innings for you to win the match when I think Somerset really didn't fancy being out there.
No, it got very wet. I mean, we'd missed a whole day's play, I think it was, on the third day. We'd come back out on the last day and we managed to sort of get a game set up. And a very, very difficult chase. We've ended up sort of going out with, I think it was 32 overs left and to get something like 240 odd runs. And Brian just sort of completely took their attack apart. Played probably one of his most destructive innings of the season that day and won the game for us.
So Lara made the headlines for his batting on that final day, but also during the match he made the headlines for a different reason. He took a mobile phone onto the field. Now, was that Warwickshire's sense of humour at work there?
Yes, I think it's his sense of humour at work. I think he took delivery of the phone early on in the day, and we'd been off for some rain at some point, and he'd actually sat down and was fiddling around trying to work out how the different programmes worked on it. So he took it out in the middle sort of to keep fiddling with it while he was in between overs. And 12th man, or the physio, got hold of his number, and while we were out there actually phoned him on it and kept interrupting him.
It was actually the captain. It was me. I'd come back from the one-day match at Lords with England that was rained off. And the actual situation of the game was we were actually going out there only to bowl about 4 or 5 overs and feed Somerset 20 runs to set up the declaration on the last day. So it was at a stage in the game where something jocular could happen, and Brian had taken his phone out and was trying to work on it, and I phoned him up. This was actually before a ball was bowled on that day.
The umpires weren't too impressed, though, were they?
No, well, I think after that, someone else's agent or someone called him up. Presumably, I better put in that, presumably his agent, or he was trying to call Trinidad on it.
You also won the Sunday game down there, again rain affected, and Dermot, you were delayed, weren't you? You were on international duty. Didn't Tim, I think you tossed the coin and Dermot captained the side on the field. That's an interesting way of working out the responsibilities.
Well, originally the start was going to be delayed because of the weather. So we got to the ground, originally Dermot wasn't going to be there. We then heard on the news that the Texaco game, which had been rearranged or been voted off on the Saturday, had been abandoned first thing Sunday morning. So we then realised that if Dermot could get from London to Taunton in time for the start, that he could play on the side. So we contacted Dermot on his mobile phone. And
They are useful. They are useful things to have.
And managed to sort of get him before he got too far away from London, and sort of said, if our start had been delayed, if you could get here by, I think it was 2 o'clock, I think we said, then you'd be able to play. And he sort of was 20 minutes outside of Taunton. We were sort of knocking up outside, and we were sort of waiting for him to arrive, and the toss was due, and he got sort of held up. So I had to go and do the toss 20 minutes before the start, and Dermot rushed in, literally put his kit on and walked out on the field to captain the side.
So you're successful on all 3 fronts at this stage, Sunday League, Championship and the Benson Hedges. We come to the quarter-final, the Benson Hedges Cup game against Kent. You won that on the bowl-out, 5-4. Now, that was a very long couple of days for the Warwickshire players, and the rest of us, I hasten to add, who were gathered around there. It never stopped raining. Now, what I remember most of all about that day, when it was decided it was going to be a bowl-out in the indoor school, was that a lot of you were starting to get a little bit worried about whether you could hit the stumps from about 20 yards away.
We actually picked the people for the bowl-out that had actually the success in the warm-ups. We all went over there and practiced, and it was generally the old pros, myself, Tim, Gladstone, Paul Smith, that actually hit quite consistently. And I fancy Richard Davis against his old county. I was thinking of some headlines in the paper the next day, looking after the media. But we all hit one out of 2, and Tim was heard to say that he'd never seen 9 inches look so small. But no, it was an awful experience, really. I mean, it was great to win, but more nerve-wracking than playing in a NatWest final or playing for your country.
But Kent weren't happy about it, their supporters and players, about everything that went on during those few days.
Yeah, it was a pity, really. It could have, a few of us were saying that it, sounded a bit like sour grapes, and the fact was that we had a huge downpour here at Edgbaston, and Steve Rouse, the groundsman, had more than the required covering, which is stipulated by the TCCB. And, we were just caught out here at Edgbaston with a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours of thunderous rain. And the ground would have never been fit. And, you have to wonder whether if Kent had won, whether I'd have had the letters from some of the Kent public saying, you know, what they thought about me and Warwickshire.
I know one thing that was impressive, Tim, when the bowl-out was going on, all the players were in there, some of us from the media were watching it as well, and Alan Donald was there too. He was over with the South Africans, well, the South Africans were about to start their tour, but that indicated how much of a team man he still was. Other people would be interested in just South Africa, but he was there supporting his mates.
Yeah, no, Alan's an adopted Brummie now. I mean, he's got a home in Birmingham. He's been great with the lads for the last, what, 6-7 years since it's been at the club. And there's never been any doubt in his commitment to Warwickshire County Cricket Club. And to actually see him in there on that day and sort of cheering the boys along was brilliant. And at the end of the day, I think there was a great photograph at the end of the shootout or bowl out where he was seen embracing Brian Lara, and the two of them together. It just sort of it was a nice touch.
The old and the new. So you're through to the semi-finals of the Benson Hedges Cup. A draw against Middlesex in the County Championship. You beat them in the Sunday League, still going well. A week later, we come to one of the most famous matches in the County Championship that Warwickshire's ever been involved in, against Durham. It was only a draw, Dermot, but everybody's going to remember Brian Lara's 501. Let's just spin forward a little bit to the last day when it was winding away to a draw. And at lunchtime, there was a significant conversation between you and Brian Lara. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what happens in cricket and in certain matches which you'd call dead matches and there's no chance of a result. That particular day, Phil Bainbridge had his most senior bowler, David Graveney, injured, and he really didn't fancy setting us a total at all. He said, Dermot, I'm not going to set you anything. So we just continued to bat. And Brian came to me at lunchtime and you know, said, what are your thoughts, Captain? And I said, well, actually, you know, I wouldn't mind bowling at some stage and get through, you know, 22, 24 overs in an hour, just to help the over rate, which could be important later in the season, you know, financially to the players. And he said, you know, I fancy I could go for the record. And I said, which record? And he said, you know, the 501. And I think at this stage he only had about 200. And I said to him, well, Brian, as long as you're at the crease, I won't declare. If you get out, then we'll probably have a little bowl for a while, and you can bowl a few leg breaks. But while you're there, you know, we'll keep watching you bat, and we did, and it was just amazing. He just punished the bowling.
Keith Piper's role in all this has been completely overshadowed, not just because of his 100, but it was Piper that got a grip of Lara in that last over and told him he'd better get a move on.
Well, I was watching Brian bat, and I'd seen how much Trevor Penny had of the strike, and I was next in with a slight stiff groin, not from watching Brian bat, just an old injury. And I said to Keith, I gave Keith the opportunity to bat ahead of me, because I saw how much scampering up and down Trevor Penny had to do. And Keith played wonderfully well, you know, and he got another 100. He's got a couple of first-class 100s now. And he's treasured every moment of that day batting with Brian. And in the end, I did not bat next in with my pads on for about 3 hours.
But if Keith Piper hadn't sussed out the situation and found out from the umpires that there was only 1 over to go and got down the other end so Lara could get the strike, you wouldn't have made history.
Yeah, there was a situation there where the umpires were going to come off half an hour before the close of play. And I think Keith did tell Brian, but I think Brian had thought that he had an extra half an hour to make the runs, and in the end he had to give himself a bit of room and hit Johnny Morris through the covers with that epic cover drive, which will never be forgotten. The next day we were playing Surrey in the B&H semi-final, and you wondered how tired Brian was going to be after scoring 501, and you were hoping he wasn't going to drink too much champagne. It was mayhem. I mean, yeah, there was just people trying to get in the dressing room to get memorabilia, you know, photographers, pressmen. In the end, we had a press conference. But it was, you know, my job as captain and the cricket management's job to try and get the fellas' minds off the game, off what had been achieved with Brian, and onto the semi-final the next day, which was a more important game for the state of Warwickshire season.
Keith Piper, Tim, we talked about his batting, underrated batsman, obviously. As a wicket-keeper, it was round about now that people are beginning to start to notice him as a wicket-keeper as well. Now, you've bowled often enough at him. A word on his merits.
He performed fantastically, really, all year. He's been with the club for a number of years now, and he's always been known to have brilliant hands, brilliant natural hands, and he's been capable of taking brilliant catches. Over the previous few years, he's had a few problems with broken fingers and things, probably due to keep the wicket to Alan Dollar, I suppose. But and every now and again his concentration lapses or whatever would slightly let him down. But this year, everything sort of came together for him. He kept superbly all year round.
It's all going so well then, Dermot. You're in the final now of the Benson Hedges. You keep winning the championship, beat Kent, an important win that one. We come to Northamptonshire at the end of June. Another good win for Warwickshire, of course, run chase in the final day. But there was a time when there was a bit of a wobble with Brian Lara, and I think perhaps that was the time when perhaps the wheels came closest to falling off. Is that fair?
We went to Northampton, and Brian and I had a slight altercation on the field, which was resolved very quickly. It was the type of altercation that you have from time to time that happens in cricket when, you know, people live in and out of each other's pockets for a few months, and we resolved it, and you know, it got on with the season, which was very important. And you know, that was a fabulous win at Northampton. Brian got another 100. Dominic Costa played particularly well in the second innings run chase. You know, they had big Kirtley running in, and Kirtley had actually hit Brian on the helmet. And even if you got a helmet on, if you get hit by someone like Kirtley, it hurts. And you know, Brian was off the field for quite a bit of that game with slight concussion or a headache. You know, I'm not sure what professional terminology to use. But you know, I think things on it were blown out of proportion.
So the next game, I think, underlined the importance of the strength of your squad against Lancashire, another dangerous side. You won by 6 wickets, and there was no Lara, no Paul Smith, no Gladstone Small, no Dermot Reeve. Was that a worrying time for you, Dermot, as captain?
It became apparent that at this stage we were in the Benson Hedges final, top of the Sunday League, and right up there in the championship. And it was obvious if we were going to challenge for all the trophies and keep this roll going, that certain players were going to need resting. And you know, this was where the strength of our squad was going to be tested. And I think it was in this game that Graham Welch came into the side. It was actually a brilliant win against Lancashire. They had Wazam Akram bowl very quickly on a helpful wicket. The ball turned as well, and this really was a marvellous win. Neil Smith took 7 for 42. Trevor Penny got 100 in the first innings, played really well. And Roger Twos in the second innings, I think we needed about 170, 190 around then to win, and the ball was turning a lot, and Roger Twos played really well to score 90. And I think, you know, we got a big 6-wicket win. It was a fabulous tribute, and it showed that we had strength in depth at the club, and we could rest the likes of Small, Reeve, Paul Smith, and even Lara.
Now the spinners won you 5 games, bowling out the opposition in the second innings, Smith and Davis. That was important.
Yeah, I think if you look back to the start of the year, we were going to be without Alan Donald, who's obviously been our main strike bowler for a number of years. We as a side had to pick up those wickets somewhere. And if you look back on the season, at the end of the season, the 2 spinners between them took over 80 wickets. And in previous years, they'd probably only taken 45 to 50 wickets in the whole season.
I sort of came in more into the reckoning with 4-day cricket, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. You know, I've done well the last couple of years bowling and what have you, and also getting wickets in 1-day cricket in the last couple of years. But I've really enjoyed the last few years. We've got a great bunch of lads, a great sort of team spirit, and we play as a team. I mean, it's been fantastic.
Getting back to that Lancashire game, I think one of the impressive things about it was that you'd lost the previous day in the Sunday League. It was your first defeat in 23 games, and you bounced back to win the championship game, as you say, when the ball was turning. Now, how big a blow was it losing on that Sunday to Lancashire? You lost by 93 runs.
You're going to lose cricket matches throughout the season. There's no way, you know, with the variables in cricket, that you're going to go through a whole season without being defeated. We did extremely well to do what we did, as we've mentioned. Neil Fairbrother for Lancashire, you know, played brilliantly that day. It wasn't a good 1-day wicket. It was up and down. And Neil Fairbrother played a great innings, and you know, he is one of the best 1-day batsmen, I believe, in the world. And in the end, Wazam Akram and the Lancashire bowlers, you know, were too good for us to score at the rate of 6 and over. And you know, we lost that game, but the boys bounced back, won on the Monday. And we were back on the roll.
So it was becoming a very important week, wasn't it, Dermot? You'd beaten Leicestershire in the Nat West, you beat Lancashire in the Championship, and then you won the Benson Hedges Cup. People were beginning to take Warwickshire seriously then, weren't they?
Well, they should have been taking us seriously all season if they weren't. You know, we'd won the Nat West, chased 321 the season before. The B&H final was a great day. You know, any final at Lord's is enjoyable. the more enjoyable when you win. I hadn't actually played on the losing side at that stage, but it was an important toss. There's always moisture in the wickets at Lord's early on, and I think the groundsman's having a few problems there with the square, and there was quite a bit of moisture in the wicket, and Tim and Gladstone bowled splendidly in the morning, and Worcester really didn't post a big enough total to trouble us. The wicket did ease, and we beat them, you know, convincingly.
Yes, Paul Smith got the Man of the Match award for his 3 for 34 and his 42 not out. It was good to see Paul playing positively, batting positively, Dermot, because he's at his best in those circumstances.
I think Paul's benefited from you know, the freedom that we've tried to give to the batsman, and he is. You're right. He's a very dangerous player, very dangerous attacking player, and you know, he showed it that day. He showed it the year before in the NatWest. He's shown it all his career at times. And it was great with Paul, whose benefit it is in '95, to have such a great day at Lord's.
I reckon, though, Dermot, one of the most important games of the season, though, was at Guildford against Surrey, when you're the injury-weakened side. You started badly, but you really showed your resilience in that game. You weren't playing, were you?
No, in this situation we were 131 for 8. It was the kind of wicket, it was a slow, low wicket, the kind of wicket that you really had to be patient on and be satisfied that you weren't going to score your runs quickly. And if you tried to score quickly, it was dangerous, and that was when you might get out. And in the end, Graham Welch and Dougie Brown pulled us round. They both scored half centuries, batting at, I think, 8 and 10, respectively. And both of them played really well. I think this was Dougie's first championship game of the season. And they pulled us round, and we still didn't have a great total. And then when Surrey batted, they were in a fabulous position, and that man with the golden arm, Roger Toos, he came on this day at Guildford, and it tends to swing a bit there. And he got 6 wickets and got us right back in the match. Andy Moles then went out, and having been able to assess the wicket, he really got stuck in, got a great double 100. He got a double 100 there, and then Tim and Neil Smith did the job in the second innings. It was a fabulous team effort, and I was sitting there watching this as team manager, and I was starting to think, well, gee, how am I going to get back in the team?
Tim, you know a bit about seam and swing bowling. Roger Toos, 6 for 28. How did he manage that at Guildford?
Sorry, we're 100 odd for 1, I think it was at the time. And he just came on and he got a lucky break in the first ball, the way he got rid of Alex Stewart, caught down the leg side. But then he sort of came into his own, and his confidence bustled in, got rid of Graham Thorpe. And he just sort of totally imposed himself on the game, and he sort of then wanted the ball all the time, and he's really alive. Absolutely,
Roger this season's come in and he's had a look around at the field, and first ball he's received, he's reverse swept for 4. He's confident. He's very confident, particularly with that shot. Plays it very well. He's never got out doing it.
Didn't he play it in the Benson Hedges final, first ball against the spinner, Richard Illingworth?
Yeah, Benson Hedges finally played at first ball here against Glamorgan on a Sunday. He played at first ball. Very vital.
Then again, Tim, another big game, Essex, here at Edgbaston. Important game to win that one. Good side, Essex, and you rolled them over, no trouble.
That game, like you say, was right in the middle of a great run, and that was the run, if you like, in the Championship. I think we won 6 games on a trot. It was at that time where we actually really imposed ourselves and took a bit of a lead at the top of the table. And that's when you start to believe you've got a realistic chance of winning the county championship. Every game at that point, from then on in, was like a cup final, whether it be Sunday's Championship, and that West obviously was getting well underway. The whole of the season then was like playing a cup final. It was very, very strenuous. Everybody was mentally very drained, but it was very important to keep each other going.
So you were captain then, Tim, winning all these games, captain sensible, everything went right for you.
I found it very important from my own point of view, as much as the effect I thought it would have on the team, was to try and give everybody a feel for how I thought the session was going to go. So in my team chats, I would say, the situation is this week, we might need to take 3 wickets, but don't panic if it doesn't happen all at once. And this sort of saying that the full-on session was sort of something where it all started in terms of games where you knew that a particular session was vital, and if a side were 100 for 2 going out after a break, you knew that if you're going to get control of the game, you've got to get 2 or 3 wickets and make sure you came off at the end of that session with them 5-6 down for a couple of 100 runs. And those full-on sessions turned out to be virtually every session after the first 2 games. Because you get to that point where you do realise that if you're going to win things, you're going to win championships, you're going to win one-day games or whatever, that every single session you're out there is full-on. It's very important.
Warwickshire cruised into the NatWest semi-finals after an emphatic 8-wicket win against Somerset at Taunton. Dismissing the opposition for 124 in a one-day game is the ideal way to wrap up a big match. And after Gladstone Small dismissed Somerset's openers quickly, Warwickshire cruised home with almost 36 overs to spare.
Gladstone has struggled now and again with a bit of a hamstring problem, and it actually from here on in to the rest of the season we had to really think about, you know, picking Gladstone's games to play in. But the great thing was that when he did play, and his importance to the side is invaluable, he really produced the goods. And this day he's 7 overs, 2 for 14. He got rid of both openers and got us well on the way.
So we get to Derbyshire, Tim, end of July. Fantastic game of cricket. You were captain again. Another important win for Warwickshire.
Yeah, I mean, we experienced it, I think it was back in '91, where we'd been at the top virtually for the whole of the season, had quite a substantial lead for most of it. And we got pipped at the post by Essex that year, who came up with a strong run towards the end. And we knew there was a difference this year was the fact that we were on a nice run midway through the season, went at the top of the table, like you said, at the right time of the season. And the guys in good form. And the performance at Chesterfield was probably one of the better games of cricket of the year.
Brian Lara scored 142, magical display on a good, quick wicket. The duel between him and Devon Malcolm was terrific to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the umpires on that day actually sort of made a comment at the end of the day's play that they thought it was some of the best county cricket they'd seen for years. Was Malcolm to Lara. I mean, Devon bowled absolutely superbly, finished up bowling his 9 overs for 40 odd without a wicket, but actually beat Brian a couple of times. Anything slightly loose, Brian laced into it and hit the boundary. And it really was a very, very entertaining day's cricket to watch.
So you've gone top, Dermot, but the following weekend you had a bad couple of days on the end of championship draw against Worcestershire. A rather dull game of cricket at Worcester, that one. And also you lost by 3 runs in the Sunday League, more importantly. You threw it away completely. You were home and hose, really, weren't you? And then it seemed as if the pressure got to the players, but is that too simplistic?
Too simplistic. It was one of those games that was going to happen in the season where we stuffed up. We really did. We had the game truly won against Worcester, and then we went out to bat till we needed about another 50 runs to win with like 8 wickets left, and every time anybody went for a bit of a big shot, they got out doing it. And in the end, we slipped up against like the part-time bowling of David Leatherdale. It was a real hiccup during the season. Perhaps we'd just become slightly overconfident. We'd you know, expected to win from the position we got in, and perhaps we just lost the edge for those 20 overs towards the end.
So a bad weekend against Worcestershire, Dermot. You really had to get the side up after that, and I think the way you played and beat Kent underlined the resilience of the side.
It was great that we bounced back and beat Kent in the NatWest semi-final on the Tuesday or the Wednesday.
Like you said, that's probably was the best win of the season in my mind. To actually, the situation the game is at going into the last 20 overs of the game. Kent wanting just over 100 runs with 8 wickets left.
And Carl Hooper in.
Carl Hooper not out, a very good batting wicket, and they were cruising it. And then we just took the game by the scruff of the neck, like you said, and got stuck in. It was an amazing sort of feeling. The crowd was probably the best I've ever experienced a crowd actually sort of affect a cricket match.
Let's get on to the Nottinghamshire game first then, Dermot. You weren't playing. First championship defeat, lost by an innings and 43 runs. It was your only defeat of the season. Complete cock-up by Tim Munton, wasn't it? Standing in for you, captain cock-up, wins the toss, puts Nottinghamshire in.
Well, I was involved in the team chat in the middle, actually, with the chief executive and the director of coaching, Bob Woolmer, with Tim, and we looked at the wicket, and yeah, you would have looked at it, and you'd be convinced that, you know, it would seam around and do quite a bit for the seam bowlers. And in the end, we lost our edge a bit that game. I think, you know, the boys here we're suffering a bit from playing so many big days of cricket, and there was a bit of exhaustion there, and we didn't really perform as well with the ball. We didn't bowl as well in this match as we had done in previous games, and we let Notts post a big total, and then when they bowled on the wicket, their bowlers did more with the ball than us, and they deserved their win. They're a very good side, Notts, and I'm not saying it was a game off, but we just lost the edge in that match, and you know, it wasn't one of our better performances.
All your fault, Captain Sensible.
Oh, totally. Hand on heart, got to be. No, I think the other significant part about that game, it was in the middle of Nottinghamshire having a fantastic run and a charge on the championship, if you like. And like Dermot said, we'd come in on the back of the semi-final of the NatWest, which was a massive game. And I know for one that I was physically and mentally drained, and I'm sure everybody else in the side was as well. And you're just hoping that you can pick yourself up, get through the day, and then sort of have an early night and hopefully pick yourself up for the Friday. But unfortunately, it didn't work that way. We didn't bowl well. We didn't field well. It was a real nightmare day's cricket that first day, and unfortunately, that sort of set the tone for the game.
Did well in the Sunday League though against them, Dermot. Good win, 72 runs, and you scored it over 7 and over.
Yeah, it was a brilliant batting performance. It was a very good wicket. It was still the same wicket that we played the semi-final on against Kent in the NatWest, and we used it again, and it was a it was a belter, fabulous one-day strip, and we posted too big a total for Notts to get, even with the danger men like Paul Johnson and people. It was a big win and important to bounce back.
So the long journey then up to Scarborough after that, and a very good win against Yorkshire, won by 8 wickets. First of all, Dominic Ostler, he got 186 there. He's really beginning to come good round about now.
That was probably one of the best innings I've ever seen Dominic play. I mean, the wicket was basically quite flat but very slow. And it was a sort of wicket where you couldn't sort of play your big shots like Dominic was used to. And he came in and he really applied himself. And yes, he dominated towards the end of his innings like you do when you get a big 100. But the first 70, 80 runs of that innings was probably the best I'd ever seen him play. He showed a real sort of maturity to his game, which was fantastic.
And Dermot, Dickie Davis is beginning to make his presence felt, as you expected towards the end of the season with the wickets drying. He took 6 for 94.
We had a few hiccups actually at Scarborough, a few tummy aches. Neil Smith couldn't field on the last morning, and Dickie came good just when we needed him to. Picked up 6 vital wickets, and then we were in a run chase situation, needing I think 200 to get in about 40 overs, 210 and 40 overs to win the match. And it's very important that here we are a good one-day side. Yeah, Andy Moles, Roger Two scored runs again. You know, they were playing their sweeps, reverse sweeps against the Yorkshire spinners. The match against Northants earlier in the year came down to a run chase on the 4th day, where Dominic Ostler played really well, specifically against Nick Cook as well. And you know, it's important here that we took our one-day form into the championship, because the game had become basically a one-day run chase on the last day. And you know, I spoke to Martin Moxon, and he said he hated it. He hated captaining the Warwickshire side when he bowled the spinners, because he didn't know where to put the fielders, because wherever he didn't put a fielder, we either swept or reverse swept, and he found it very infuriating, and it was a great win.
And yet again, Dermot, it was impressive the way you'd bounced back after a Sunday performance which was poor. You lost by 54 runs, and Worcestershire then had gone joint equal top of you with a game in hand. I remember that day at Scarborough, the Yorkshire folk, they enjoyed your discomfiture. Big crowd, wasn't it? And they liked the fact that the Yorkies had put one over on Warwickshire. A lot of people were talking then about the fact you might be cracking in the Sunday League.
We August, by the time August comes around, it's become a very hard physical season, and the boys were feeling a bit drained at this stage. It's much easier if you're out of a competition, as we were in '93. We were out of the championship from quite early on. Tim and Gladstone were both struggling with injuries in '93, so we were resting them from the championship, and they were coming good for us in the NatWest Trophy. It's much easier to attack a season or attack a trophy if you're actually out of one, because we were in everything. As we've said, every day's cricket was vital. It was a huge day, and it was taking its toll on the players. They were starting to feel jaded.
Wasn't that weekend at Sussex important, though? Beating the championship, winning the Sunday game as well?
The Sussex weekend was a huge weekend. We beat them on a poor wicket. We played better than they did in the championship and on the Sunday. But the thing was, all our contenders, Notts, Worcester, everyone else who was up there, lost that weekend, and they lost on the Sunday. And suddenly we had this bit of breathing space, and having had a slight hiccup in the weeks earlier, only very slight, you know, we were right back in there, and we just knew if we played good cricket, very good cricket up to the end of the season, that there'd be more than one trophy, you know, in the cabinet.
How was morale then on the eve of the Hampshire game, knowing that you just had to keep your nerve to win the championship?
At this stage, you know, there was nothing that you could say to the players, you know, to motivate them. There was no need. Everybody was just so motivated and so focused on what had to be done. And these 10 days, we were going to play 10 days solid cricket, playing every single day. Luckily, or with good cricket, we had a day off on the Monday because we beat Sussex. So we had a day's rest, but it's not easy. You know, mentally it wasn't a day's rest. The boys were preparing for Hampshire.
Tim, I remember that pitch, the Hampshire pitch. It looked very dodgy. Just as well Warwickshire got a big score, because I wonder if you were worried about the 25-point deduction.
Yeah, I know Steve Rouse all year long has had trouble with the square. You know, he inherited a square with very little grass on it, and we've had a lot of wickets this year or last year that looked far worse than they actually played. And I came on the morning of that game with, I think, 44 points clear at the top of the table, and went out and looked at it. It just looked probably the worst wicket we played at Edgbaston all year. And I just got the panics on a little bit. I thought, crikey, we're losing 25 points here or whatever. I went over to the nets, had a chat with the coach, and it all went on like that. We came out, we lost the toss, and Hampshire batted first. And about an hour and a half into that morning session, Paul Terry was, I don't know, 40-odd not out, something like that. I walked past him, he said, I can't believe how well this wicket's played. And it was just a typical one of those wickets. It looked very poor, but played very well.
And all of a sudden, Dermot, the last afternoon, there was a clatter of wickets. I know we were checking how Leicestershire were doing down at Bristol, but it was within Warwickshire's grasp. If they won, that was it. And then Neil Smith and Dickie Davis bowled so well. It all came with a rush in that final afternoon.
Yeah, it did. We played on some great 4-day wickets here at Edgbaston, where the wickets started off good with good pace, but good for batting, and they deteriorated slowly throughout the 4 days, and towards the end of the match they started to turn for the spinners, which is great for cricket. And the ball started to spin again, and Neil Smith got 5 wickets in no time at all, and Tim went up and picked up the trophy, which he you know, deserved to do.
I thought it was a nice gesture of yours, actually, Dermot, if I may say so, when you were handing the pennant and the trophy over to Tim Munson. I think that made a good point to the supporters about Tim's contribution as standing captain.
Well, his contribution ever since he's got into the first team, how many years ago? 8 years ago, whatever it is, has been fabulous here at Warwickshire. There isn't someone who plays the game with who's got as much, you know, character and heart for the game. You know, he'll bowl for you all day. Some days you have to say, listen, Tim, you know, you just bowled 12 overs, have a rest, and he'll say, come on, Skip, give me one more. And I'll say, no, Tim, have a rest there. You know, he just always wants to bowl, which is great for me as captain when I am playing.
Now, you are manager, Mike, of the England team going to Australia this winter. You've been an England captain, etc., etc. On that basis, with your experience, you must be disappointed that only Keith Piper has been selected for 2 England tours.
Yes, we don't cavil at the individuals who have been picked, Pat. Obviously, they're good cricketers and well up to that standard. But I'm sure it's fair to say, yes, we're disappointed, particularly for the players. I mean, as far as the club is concerned, yes, there is a certain disappointment. But when the side has done so well and for so long, it's fair to say we're a little bit surprised that 1 or 2 others haven't been recognised.
It's been a shame, actually. I think that the guys have really played well, and there are some individuals who have performed on numerous occasions and deserve selection. You know, some a bit older than others, but they have some of the young guys that deserve, you know, some reward for the tremendous work they've put in. And all I can say is that, you know, I did go through a certain amount of frustration in my life growing up and in cricket, and it's made me work pretty harder, you know, and try to, you know, work hard and maybe put the selection beyond the selectors.
So 2 trophies down, the Benson Hedges and the Championship, 2 to go.
I don't want to take anything away from Worcester and how well they played, but there was definitely, and I said to Bob Woolmer and Tim out in the middle, I said there's more moisture in this wicket than any other one-day final or any other one-day game I've played actually at Lord's. I mean, you could really feel your studs just melted into the turf. And when Andy Moles took guard, you know, he said I was nearly bringing up water. Jokingly, it was like mud where he took guard. And the ball seemed around. I mean, I remember a delivery Stuart Lampitt bowled in, I think, the 25th over to Brian Lara, which nipped back at him like a Shane Warne leg break. But at 75 miles an hour, it's just unplayable. And it's disappointing that such a great showpiece can be played on a wicket which isn't good for run scoring and shot play.
I wondered, Tim, is there a way around this? Because many a September final's been spoiled by the toss.
Yeah, I'm sure people at TCCB are looking at it. I'm sure they have done. I mean, I've talked to a number of people over the last month or so about the problem, and various suggestions have come about. One that I particularly like is the idea that you try and have a NatWest Finals week, where you play the games in sort of mid to end of August, as opposed to that sort of second week in September. And maybe play your semi-finals Tuesday, Wednesday, and play the final over the weekend, something like that. Gets you out of that sort of time of the year when you do get the dew. For some reason, September, when it comes around, that's when you do get the problem with the moist pitches.
Were you determined not to appear a whinger because the toss was so important against Worcestershire?
I actually said to the boys in the dressing room, you know, I said, fellas, you know, we've lost a toss, we're batting, it's going to do a bit. Might do a lot, but it's going to do a bit early on for sure. But, you know, it's great. This is great that we've lost the toss because we're going to win it this way round. And in the end, I mean, we could have, the amount the ball did, we could have been 60 for 6. And in the end, to get up to 230 was a good effort. But Hick and Moody were in such good form. And by that stage, on the second day, the wicket had become a good wicket to bat on, and Hick and Moody just destroyed us.
Brian Lara's innings was quite superb, Tim. The conditions were all against him. He was in more or less a second over, I think it was, and it was fascinating to see his technical mastery in those conditions.
He played superbly. I mean, obviously he had an element of luck as well, which you had to have on those sort of wickets, but the percentage the way he played the game gave him a great chance of surviving that way, and the way he left the ball, the way he sort of really played himself in. And he got to the point where he was well set, and he was talking about scoring 150 and getting 280 runs on the board and giving us a real total to go at by the time the Sunday came round. But, you know, he played absolutely superbly well and gave us a chance.
So you've missed the Grand Slam. Now it's important to keep the concentration going for the next fortnight to get the Sunday League.
We actually had a break. We had a break for about 10 days before the Gloucester trip, and that break didn't really come at a great time. You couldn't keep yourself in form. All your mind was on this one Sunday League match at Bristol, which if we win, you know, we win the treble, unprecedented. We're going to create history, and it was a huge game. But we had to wait for it to come around, and the waiting was painful. It really was.
You were set up though for the Bristol game, Dermot, because the penultimate Sunday League game, you beat Hampshire on the fastest scoring rate at Edgbaston. And that night, members' evening, it was a very pleasant evening. The members were obviously very proud of the players, and Tim Munson and Brian Lara both got awards, and I sensed that night a very warm relationship between the players and the members, and it was good to see Lara and Munson publicly acknowledged.
Absolutely. The win, firstly against Hampshire, was another big win. You know, we had to keep the form going, another good one-day win. And yeah, we had a members' evening. The members are always nice and cheery towards us, especially when we're winning. No, it was a lovely do, and Tim here well deserved the Cricketer of the Year. And you know, he's had a fabulous year, and Brian, I think, was the Junior Bears Cricketer of the Year, and it was a lovely evening.
So we get to Bristol, Tim. On the morning of that match, the Sunday, I imagine the first thing you did when you looked out the window was thinking, what's the weather like?
That's right. We'd had obviously 3 days, I think it was, of terrible weather around the championship game, and we kept being told the weather forecast was very good for Sunday. And miraculously, really, because by the Monday it was raining again. That one day, that Sunday, the weather was nice, it was bright, it wasn't particularly warm, but it was bright, the sun was out, and we were pretty confident we were going to get a full day's cricketing. And
obviously you were very keen on finding out what was happening with Kent and with Worcestershire, but didn't the captain say that you can't watch CFAX, can't check on the other scores, Tim?
It's quite interesting that day, Pat, because we'd had this ban on CFAX and everything, but by the time we were 3 for 3, everybody was in the away dressing room watching the Surrey game to see how Kent were going.
Were they?
Not a great start at Bristol, was it, Dermot? 3 for 3, and it could have been 3 for 4, because Trevor Penny really should have been caught by Courtney Walsh.
I didn't see it. I was padding up in a hurry at the time, and I just heard someone say, Trevor's out. No, he's been dropped. And I thought, phew, that's good. And I was actually thinking if we get 120, 130, we could win this, because obviously it wasn't a good one-day wicket. And it was great. It was a great day and a great win. I was particularly pleased that day with how we played spin. And it's interesting to note that actually throughout the Sunday League season, how well we have dominated opposition spinners. compared to how they've attempted to dominate our spinners. And you've got to pay tribute here to Neil Smith and to Richard Davis, you know, how well they've bowled. But, you know, Bob Woolman, myself and Tim have had a lot of chats about how we should approach, you know, spinners in one-day cricket. And it was interesting to note that we, in the Sunday League, lost a wicket to opposition spinners about every 40 runs, and they lost a wicket to our spinners every 16. So the difference is huge, yet we took their spinners for more runs per over. They took our spinners for 4, and we took theirs for 6. And I'm sure you've noticed throughout the season there's a lot of premeditation goes on when we play. You know, Roger Tews, Dominic Oster, Trevor Penny, nearly to a man in the side. We'll premeditate. We'll say there's nobody there for the reverse sweep. We must have this season played 50 reverse sweeps as a team, and nobody got out doing it. And, you know, it's still, you know, I'm hoping the day that one day I'll go to a cricket dinner and they'll have a menu there with this cricketer on the front, and he won't be playing a cover drive, he'll be playing a reverse sweep. Because it's a very valuable shot. And, you know, even the paddle around the corner, the improvisation that we did this year against spin was vital to us winning it in one-day cricket. And it proved safer, statistically it's proved safer than playing spin normally. And, you know, that's got to, you know, you've got to pay tribute there to Bob Woolmer, who's allowed the players to express themselves and play that, and reverse sweep on naught if it's the right option. And I remember Tim here reverse sweeping Sean Udall on naught, first ball, here in the championship match against Hampshire, and it's a very good shot.
Now, Tim, you won the game at Bristol with that low, athletic catch. I can see you now hanging on to that ball.
Well, I'm pleased you described it as athletic. I thought it was low.
You spot the surprise in my voice.
The sarcasm.
It was definite sarcasm. Yeah, I hung on to the ball, Pat. Yeah, it was when I threw it up in the air, though. I threw it about 30 foot in the air to sort of celebrate catching it like I've seen everybody else do. And I thought, you know, it was up there, I saw the crowd rushing on towards me. I got the panic, so I thought I was not going to come down before I get mobbed here. So, well, I did get it, went straight back up.
Has the Munton mantelpiece got that ball in?
It will be well and truly placed on the mantelpiece here.
In the dressing room afterwards, and it looks as if the whole thing was actually dawning on you all, and you were drinking Brew 11 rather than champagne, weren't you? Even though it was a champagne moment.
It was a phenomenal achievement to win 3 trophies, but the one you miss out on, you know, to come second in that competition is just amazing. I don't think it'll get done again. I think 3 trophies in a season might, but I don't think that side will finish second in the one they miss out on. And it was just a complete pleasure. And looking back now, you know, and watching little bits of footage and the tapes I've got of the season and the trophies and the photographs, it was, you know, a fabulous year that obviously I'll never forget, and I'm sure the other players and the members won't either.
What about De Glaston? He goes off with a hamstring strain, Trevor.
He wanted to come up for a few beers early, didn't he?
That's right. Did you notice how he milked the audience? He milked the applause.
That's it. It's a real beauty.
No, Trevor, you're just a young shaver in cricket. You've won everything already. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
No. Next year it's all 4 there, I think.
Oh, you're aiming high, eh?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think, yeah.
That's the way to look at it. Now, Gladstone, you were a member of the Warwickshire side that won the Sunday League 14 years ago.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Do you really?
We lost.
You're giving his age away.
The thing I remember that one 40 years ago, we managed to lose the trophy in a pub in Birmingham called the Prince of Wales. A pub you know very well, Pat.
I think I do, yeah.
And the celebration that night, we lost the trophy. I think this could be a night where we could lose all 3 of them somewhere in Bristol tonight.
That night then, Tim, so many emotions must have been going through your mind as you sat there in the Bristol dressing room with one more day of county cricket to go, thinking, my word, I hope it rains. Is that right?
Praying, absolutely praying for it. No, it's quite strange because we'd won the county championship the day before we went down to Lords for the NatWest final. We said then whatever happened on the Saturday, we'd have a big night in London to celebrate the county championship. Couldn't do that because of the weather. All went on and on and on. And you know, we look back at it and we hadn't really celebrated our achievements through the year, because we've always got another big game to follow. So when we won on that Sunday, to actually sit back and realise we've become part of cricket history by being the first side to win 3 trophies, there was an awful lot to celebrate, and it was a real sort of spontaneous sort of night. I mean, we planned to sort of go and take over a restaurant in Bristol and do all the rest of it. We never got out of the hotel. We went back to the hotel, and within an hour there was about 40 people in a nice big circle in the hotel. And it was a fantastic sort of real spontaneous night that was, you know, I remember forever.
Champagne cricketer, are you?
Indeed. Right. We had a champagne breakfast the other day to celebrate the winning of the championship. We haven't really had time since the NatWest final at Lords. And, So we had a good champagne breakfast, and tonight I think we're going to have a champagne dinner and whatever else goes with it.
Your emotions, Roger? Relief the season's over, perhaps, and relief that you've done it? Fatigue?
Oh, certainly a lot of fatigue. Unlike a lot of other players, I've got to wait 3 weeks now, and then I've got to go and start another first-class season in New Zealand. But certainly a lot of relief, and I'm looking forward to hopefully coming back next year and celebrating.
Tim was hoping it would rain the next day so he didn't have a hangover, but I was hoping to get my first championship 50 of the season. So I was actually playing in that last game because Brian Lara wasn't. But it was an amazing achievement, and although I missed out on celebrating with the boys that night, I mean, we celebrated in the dressing room, and the adrenaline was just pumping through the body.
No, there's a lot of good players, Dominic, who played a lot of years and they've got not one medal.
I think I'm very lucky. Got all 4, so they'll be on the mantelpiece.
You've come through the local system, haven't you? Your father's a big supporter. You're from Solihull. You've been part of the Bears for how long?
I've been about 5 or 6 years now. Dad comes and watches whenever he can, so he's a good supporter. My brother, he loves coming along, and the family love cricket, so I come in a better place.
When's it all going to sink in, though, Dominic?
I don't know. Probably tomorrow morning after a heavy night, but I don't know. I think we've done very well. We've had a great year, and
this old fellow Reeva's going past. He's told you you're a better player than you are. In fact, hasn't he?
He was going to go out and break the record. I
don't think there's a lot left in him actually.
You reckon no?
He's struggling. He's struggling.
Neil, you've just been looking at all the trophies there in the corner that Warwickshire won. Is it sunk in yet?
No, not really. I think personally it'll take a couple of weeks to sink in. Yeah, it just seems like another big game as such now. We've had such a hectic season, especially the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks. Thinking predominantly about the championship, obviously, then. But it's been amazing. I mean, 3 trophies and a losing finalist. You just can't. It'll take a while to sink in. It's been phenomenal year.
And for you, Graham Welsh, the rest of the senior players here are pulling your leg, aren't they? But for you, this must be a fantastic last 6 weeks or so.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Been with all the fellas all the time. They've helped me along so much. For my first year, and we've won 3 trophies, so obviously.
Because after a couple of years, you know, Neil Aberley's thought a lot of you in the past, and he said, well, the guy's got a lot of talent, and all of a sudden you're broken through. Why is that?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know, just confidence really this year. A lot of confidence when I...
Dickie Davis reckons you learned the ball straight. He can talk.
I still got more wickets in him this year.
Tell me about the Guildford game, because that was very important against Surrey, wasn't it?
That was me and Dougie. Can't remember the score. Me and Dougie came in, put on 100, I think it was.
Yeah.
So changed the game really. So.
Are you going to buy Courtney Walsh a drink for dropping your second ball?
A real sitter as well, I think.
And you went on to get 50 odd, which is crucial, Trevor.
It would have been 4 for 3 if I'd got out, and then it would have been stuff from then.
What were the collie wobbles like at 3 for 3 when you were in there?
It was very, Brian kept saying, just forget it, pretend we're opening the batting, let's just bat through.
That's brilliant. I mean,
take the first 5 or 10 overs, we don't have to score any runs, and it'll be easy after that, and that's what we did.
I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, it shows the quality of Lara, it shows the quality of Trevor. A lot of pressure was on there. 3 for 3. And you know, 4 or 5 years ago, Warwickshire wouldn't have got 150. We wouldn't have got 120 runs after that start. But it shows the professionalism and the thought that goes into our cricket. That's what it is. It's one the cricket. Okay, you need the element of luck, but a lot of it is down to thought as well.
Everybody was saying that this was an important game.
Yeah, that's what they said already.
Will you get away?
Away the lad!
Get off. This man's having exclusive interviews.
I'm trying to speak seriously.
Now, what about this fellow Brian Lara? Is he still the second best left-hander in the club?
He certainly is, Pat. You're right.
Did you really put a note on his locker saying that?
Yes, I did. You know me, Pat. I'm
whimsical character.
Indeed. But had to give him a challenge, and you know, fortunately for us, he's actually risen to it. So I think it's a well worth task, and it's paid off for us.
How much have you learned from Brian Lara?
A lot. I've limited time talking to him. He's either out on the golf course or in Trinidad, or sleeping, or out there batting. But just watching the technique, watching the little genius in action, really. And I've learned to play certain areas off the back foot that I haven't been able to play before. And you know, hopefully I'll move on from that.
So there's no reason at all why you won't be equally productive for Warwickshire next season?
Well, I would say no reason, and you know,
if I come back, which it looks very likely that I will, then I'll be looking to build on, you know, the 1400 plus that I've scored this year in the Championship. Unfortunately, 1993 wasn't the best year for me, off the back of a 1992 1400 run season. So I'll be looking to try and get a big 100 early on and kick on from there next season.
Well, I'm sure, Roger, the members will be delighted to hear this news.
Oh, I hope so. There seems to be a useful fan club out there calling my name, and everyone keeps asking me not to leave, so I'll be back next year. Okay.
So the coming generation, you're going to win all 4 next year, are you?
I think the youngsters are pushing the old ones out now, and shouldn't be long before we take over.
You got any comment on that, Captain?
You just imagine Osler as captain. I asked him what he thought of the Renault 5. He said, I thought they were guilty.
It was tinged with sadness the end of the season at Dermot, because Bob Woolmer got promoted in a sense, going to run South African cricket. Warwickshire's lost very much South Africa's gain. A word on Bob Woolmer's contributions to Warwickshire since 1991.
Bob's been fabulous for the club. He's been a wonderful director of coaching. His passion for the game, he never stops talking about it. He's always encouraging talk. He's not a strict, you know, person. He's not an MCC coaching book type coach. He's always learning. He's always trying out new things, and he's very inventive. He's really is one of the people who in cricket is going to take the game forward.
The big thing that he added to me, well, for my mind, was when he came to the club, he got a lot of players who benefited from a lot of very good coaching, very good technical coaching. Bob, brilliant technical coaching in his own right, but when he actually came to the club, he actually talked to us and got us talking about cricket, enthused about the game, got us all talking about how to win games of cricket as opposed to just playing games of cricket.
So the greatest season any county side ever experienced is over. 3 trophies and runner-up in the 4th competition. How do you match that? No Brian Lara in 1995, although Alan Donald is an admirable replacement, a great bowler for a great batsman. Bob Woolmer's superb coaching talents will be lost to South African cricket. Roger Toos's international ambitions with New Zealand mean he probably has just 1 season left at Edgbaston. 1995 will be a major test of players and coaching staff at Edgbaston, but no one will forget the year of the Bear.
You still pinch yourself. I think, you know, that I've achieved, like you say, all 4 trophies at 29 years of age. I mean, I'd have been happy to have had a full county career, let alone win trophies with a big club like Warwickshire, and let alone to have been played for my country.
Almost worth having grandchildren for, isn't it, Dermot? So you can bore them to tears in a few years' time.
Well, there's a chance of that, Pat. There's a chance.
Thanks, Dermot. Thanks, Tim. It's been enjoyable just wandering through a history-making season.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. It's been quite nice talking to you as well.